missing out on knowing him. Deep down, I wanted to know if he loved me and how much, which I think he did. Eddie Vedder never desired fame, but the world forced him. He became legendary. He shouted in Jeremy the repressed wrath and Alive, making a lost generation feel seen. Childhood wounds and lost children suddenly spoke. Someone who once doubted himself gave it that voice. Eddie Vedder entered music as an outsider. No training, no desire for greatness, only lies, a fatherless upbringing, and untold grief. He turned all that into lyrics and yells. Became a world-stopping sound. Eddie Vedder survived an era when grunge bands disintegrated and heroes fell prey to addiction. He was calmer, more resilient, and completely faithful to himself, not stronger. He was great because of that. Early life. From Evanston, Illinois, Edward Louis Severson III was born on December 23, 1964. However, he never owned that name. Eddie's parents divorced young. His mother remarried Peter Mueller. Eddie believed Peter was his biological father throughout childhood. The youngster was never told that his biological father had been wiped from the household. When Eddie was 12, they moved to San Diego. After a calm suburban childhood, he was thrown into a strange city where family memories blurred with every new location. In the chaos, Eddie felt like he didn't fit anywhere, not with family, school, or at home. Peter, whom Eddie still considered his father, became aloof and frigid, as if Eddie were a stray child in his house. Eddie began to withdraw, quiet, guarded, and doubtful. Music was his sole sanctuary. Like a junkie seeking emotion, he listened to The Who, Neil Young, and The Doors as if each line could heal his broken self. He learned guitar for healing, not performance. His small fingers struggled through chords to communicate what words could not. At 17, learned the truth. He accidentally discovered Peter Miller wasn't his father. Eddie had no idea that Edward Severson Jr. had died long before. His life-filled upbringing fell into a hollow quiet, and a slow-burning wrath began to grow. Eddie quit school, worked night shifts at gas stations and as a security guard, and recorded tunes in a seedy room to live. He didn't want to be famous, just to survive and maybe make his cracks audible to others. A historic voice was silently born in those abandoned years, undetected by anyone. Early career Eddie Vedder was not discovered in an audition or elite artist development program. Not from an art school, he had no launch pad or agent. He had only a few self-made demos, lo-fi sounds saturated in late-night misery, recorded on an outdated cassette recorder in a rundown San Diego apartment. Eddie guarded a gas station that functioned as a little recording studio in 1990. A Seattle recording from former Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer Jack Irons was handed to him by a friend. It included instrumental tracks by former Mother Love Bone members Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard, who were launching a new band. They needed a main singer. No one expected a Southern California night shift worker to say that. Something flared when Eddie listened to the tape. During one night, he wrote lyrics for Alive, Once, and Footsteps. The three told a story about a man crushed by his father's truth, haunted by memories, and falling into darkness. Many didn't realize this reflected Eddie's childhood. In reality, the lyrics were confessions. The cassette of his singing was mailed to Seattle. Days later, Jeff Ament called. He was instructed to fly up promptly. A flight changed Eddie Vedder's life forever. Eddie instantly connected with Jeff, Stone, and drummer Dave Crewson in Seattle. Mookie Blaylock became Pearl Jam to avoid trademark concerns. Eddie was the sole and last component. Within months, they recorded their debut album, 10. Eddie sounded unlike any Seattle vocalist. His singing was instinctive, not technique. His voice wasn't silky like Chris Cornell's or explosive like Kurt Cobain's. Pain, concentrated fury, and raw humanity were present. He regularly hunched over, gripping his head, singing in the studio as if every word was squeezing the breath from some past memory. 10 debuted in 1991. No one expected it to be a decade-defining rock record. Before Pearl Jam became a global phenomenon, Eddie Vedder was a small man with a worn sweater who left his previous storm to face fame. Career success. 10 was a groundbreaking triumph. The album propelled Pearl Jam to the forefront of grunge in August 1991, weeks before Nirvana's Nevermind. Alive, Even Flow, and Jeremy topped the Billboard charts and captivated audiences worldwide with her melancholy, powerful, calm, and unique voice. Eddie Vedder gained sudden fame, but he never wanted it. The band was swept up in media, award shows, and fame-soaked parties, but reacted differently. He withdrew, was mute, declined interviews, and avoided commercializing his image. Eddie smoked silently in nooks and cried after concerts, despite appearing on magazine covers nationwide. He thought he was betraying his roots artistically. He felt like a fraud whenever a camera focused on his face. He wasn't fulfilled by fame. It broke him. Versus, their second album, debuted in 1993. There were no official singles, yet it smashed sales records. Pearl Jam declined to make music videos despite the enthusiasm. Instead of accepting accolades or attending talk shows, they followed Eddie Vedder's guidelines. Then began the risky Ticketmaster fight. Vedder publicly accused the ticketing company of overcharging supporters in 1994. Pearl Jam boycotted Ticketmaster venues, causing tour cancellations and substantial losses. Industry considered them troublemakers. Fans viewed Vedder as a hero, one of the few artists to challenge the establishment. Not everyone liked that. He was labeled antisocial, tough, and odd by the media. Eddie remained mute. He let music talk. Vitology, 1994. No Code, 1996. 1998 Yield. After 10, the records didn't blow up. But Vedder's mark was clear. Darker, introspective, difficult to stomach, and uncompromising. He would sacrifice commercial success to stay himself. Pearl Jam lasted through the 2000s while grunge faded and many of their peers split up. Not because of marketing initiatives, but because of loyal fans and an honest voice. Eddie began a solo career after Pearl Jam, most notably with the 2007 Into the Wild soundtrack, inspired by the true story of a young man who lived in the forest and died alone. Vedder's music was raw, haunting, and stripped down, like his soul. Eddie Vedder never sought to shine in large arenas or small studios. Just stood, with his guitar and eyes that saw through you. He sung, as if not singing would fill him with rage, defeat, and revival. Fame never satisfied Eddie Vedder. It was heavy. He felt increasingly alienated as he gained fame. Eddie was drinking more, sleeping less, and struggling with anxiety in the mid-1990s when Pearl Jam was at its peak. Eventually, he admitted he drank to go on stage. He saw fame as a golden cage, while others envied him. Everything fell apart in 2000. Pearl Jam performed at the Roskilde Festival in Denmark on June 30, 2000, when a crowd surge killed. 9 fans died. A few were crushed meters from the stage. While singing Daughter, Eddie Vedder didn't realize what was happening. After the band stopped playing, the lights came on and he spotted corpses on the ground. He almost collapsed. Pearl Jam stopped their tour after that night. Eddie disappeared almost. He felt guilty that his music and performance had killed people. He didn't sing or perform for months. He stayed home and wrote silently. Love Boat Captain would resound from that abyss. Today, 2 years ago, we lost 9 people we'll never know. Eddie was remembering his soul loss as much as respecting the dead. He had other ghosts besides Roskilde. Chris Cornell, Vedder's best friend and Soundgarden lead singer, committed suicide after a Detroit gig in 2017. Eddie skipped the funeral. Some called him frigid, but he couldn't take another loss. In subsequent concerts, he nearly broke down whenever Chris was mentioned. He said music was his only lifeline during those years. He avoided trends. Billboard rankings weren't needed. He only needed to sing to express his pain. From the simplest things, resurrection slowly occurred. Eddie's wife, Jill McCormick, and 2 young girls brought him serenity. Practicing meditation and surfing each morning helped him slow down. He composed the Into the Wild music because he saw himself in the protagonist, a man who fled the world to find truth, not for a contract. He returned to the stage with brutal honesty, not spectacle. Every performance was an apology, every song a scar unveiled and retold to tell him he was still alive. Even without youth or chart-topping tunes, Eddie Vedder can silence thousands with a single phrase. Personal life. Eddie Vedder is a mysterious, private man underneath the stage lights. He avoids talking about his family and feels uncomfortable when his name appears in entertainment sections. However, his closest friends know his private life is his quietest. The one where he struggled most to stand. Ed's first wife was Beth Liebling, a singer and music journalist, and his lifelong Seattle partner throughout the lean years. Pearl Jam was at its peak and receiving constant press in 1994, when they married. Beth was no normal rock star's wife. Eddie trusted her enough to disclose the pieces of himself no one else saw, and she heard him cry beneath the weight of fame. However, celebrity destroyed the marriage. In 2000, pressure, distance, endless tours, and developing estrangement led to separation and divorce. Eddie rarely discussed the split, but Thin Air and Man of the Hour reflected his anguish. Eddie lived off the grid and avoided relationships after his divorce. Until he met Jill McCormick, a non-glitzy model. She was calm, patient, and unafraid to stay in the background, silently anchoring a scarred man. Olivia and Harper were their daughters after nearly a decade together. They married in 2010. I knew what it was to sing from the heart, according to Vedder. He rarely mentions his children, but followers have seen him cry when talking about them, the one thing that makes him believe there is still love in the world. Eddie has never been involved in scandals, affairs, or a crazy lifestyle like other rock stars. He performs music. He keeps tranquility in his daily existence. A seaside house, a few guitars, two girls, and a woman who knows that sometimes a damaged soul can only love in quiet. Perhaps that saved him from the brink. Influence and legacy. Millions of albums sold, countless awards, and Pearl Jam's 2017 entrance into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame would suggest Eddie Vedder left a respectable musical legacy. He's not remembered on paper or podiums. It lives in the hearts of people who felt lost, broken, and found redemption in his husky voice. Eddie Vedder goes beyond singing. He speaks truth, real passion. While many of his contemporaries chose commercial avenues to survive, Eddie stuck to his core. We connect, heal, and resist with music. He influenced a generation of alternative and indie performers, including Dave Grohl, Matt Schultz, Cage the Elephant, Ben Harper, and Glenn Hansard. His effect went beyond music. Focus was on mentality. He said, "I never sought fame. I just wanted to act morally." And he did. He challenged Ticketmaster for fan rights. He used music to promote indigenous rights, LGBT rights, environmental protection, and opposition to the Iraq War. Eddie Vedder was one of the few artists that spoke up with integrity without a microphone in an era when most artists stayed silent to stay safe. Offstage, he founded and supported the EB Research Partnership, which helps youngsters with a rare skin ailment, and Pearl Jam's Vitology Foundation. He never flaunted it. Silence has always been more important to Vedder than fame. Rock artists rarely retain their individuality after 30 years. Eddie Vedder sings like it's his first time. More honest than ever, not smoother or perfecter. That's why he never feels old. Eddie Vedder is one of the few things that can't be replicated. Current life. Eddie Vedder, 60, isn't aging like a rock star. He's not clinging to previous glory or announcing a comeback, because Vedder's career never came full circle. The flow has been quiet yet constant. Earthling, Vedder's 2022 solo album, is highly intimate and mature, with surprising partnerships. Elton, Ringo, Stevie Wonder. The album wasn't meant to impress. A letter. A letter to memory, aging, and music appreciation. Pearl Jam released Dark Matter, their 12th studio album, in 2024. It was lauded for its sound and message. The band's Globe tour was its most energetic in years. By 2025, Eddie Vedder continued. He completed the Dark Matter tour with Pearl Jam in major North American cities, ending in Pittsburgh in May. In an emotional moment, Vedder abruptly announced it was the last gig of the tour. He sang classics like Alive and Even Flow and small acoustic tributes to Tom Petty and Neil Young, honoring his inspirations. Vedder initiated a special project in 2025. The Vedder Cup, a charity baseball game between the San Diego Padres and Seattle Mariners, raises money for the EB Research Partnership, which Eddie and his wife started to help children with a rare skin illness. Vedder's humanitarian activism comes from the heart, not fame. Also at Tribeca, he and his wife premiered the documentary Matter of Time, recording the fight against EB and raising millions for medical research. Vedder had no big remarks during the premiere. As always, he let the film's characters and music speak. He can be spotted wandering along the beach with his wife and girls or watching his local baseball team on regular days. No bodyguards, no show. He considers that the greatest luxury. Live normally after decades of survival in an amazing world. Eddie Vedder's voice hasn't changed after everything, which is astounding. Still ragged, still suffering, still able to move people with its sincerity, not its perfection. Eddie Vedder never sought immortality. He never chased perfection, created a star character, or used fame as a weapon, but by staying steadfastly committed to his inner sorrow, rage, love, and honesty, he developed one of rock's most compelling voices. His singing is unique because he knows firsthand how it feels to be betrayed by your childhood. He delivers black like no one else because he has stood alone in the dark, singing about an unnamed lost sweetheart. No one has survived 3 turbulent decades of American rock undefeated, relentless, and soulful like him. Eddie Vedder shows that silence may be louder than scream. Hoarse, wounded, and scarred voices can make millions feel less alone. Eddie Vedder selected the truth in a commodified world where emotions are shaped by media. Never needed to shine to be seen. He merely needed to be heard as a living, struggling, never-ending singer. Thus, he will never be forgotten. Share your experience finding yourself in his songs. Because sometimes an old song is all it takes to reclaim a lost part of your life.